Alrighty-o. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Shenanigans with Shreya podcast. We are in the Christmas spirit of things. I am actually recording this from my hometown, which is really fun. I wanted to have a Christmas episode to this podcast. So I wanted to see if there was neuroscience and psychology behind Christmas time. There is a certain switch that we have vibe wise when it comes to Christmas. So we are going to be looking at the neuroscience of the Christmas cheer and looking into what researchers literally call a neural network of joy. But the question does arise, like, why do we tend to turn into our teenage selves whenever we're back in our hometown for the holidays? Why is our brain literally wired to make us overspend? So we're going to break down what our brain tends to turn into during the Christmas spirit. So let's start with the actual science. In 2015, the British Medical Journal published a study that used fMRI scans to see if you could actually measure how much Christmas spirit someone had, if it was a measurable biological state. So the researchers actually found that people who celebrate Christmas have a specific network in their brain that lights up, which involve the parietal lobe and the sensory motor cortex. And these are the areas that are responsible in the brain for social perception and for recognizing facial emotions. What they kind of concluded was that our brain essentially has a festive map that stays pretty dormant the whole year, and it's usually triggered by something called an episodic memory. So our hippocampus, which is our memory hub in the brain, tends to bundle things like the scent of pine or the sound of a specific song that you associate with Christmas, the past Christmases that you've had. And then when you walk back into your family home, and all of these things tend to be present, the warm vibe that you look at with a sense of nostalgia. And you rush back into your family home and you have these multimodal memory bundles in your brain that start to fire. They create this physiological rush indicating you're home now, it is Christmas time, and you start feeling that fuzzy warm feeling that you've always associated with Christmas your entire life. So if you don't grow up with Christmas traditions, your network is not going to light up for the Christmas spirit. So the Christmas spirit isn't like an objective reality that people have. It's a culturally conditioned neural pathway that will light up according to how you've grown up and how you've celebrated Christmas in your life. Usually, a lot of us around Christmas time, especially if you're a student, it'd be the end of like a really busy and stressful semester, we have our hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, the HPA axis, that is quite active in our brain during a semester because we're running on adrenaline, we're running on cortisol, we're really, really busy. And then when you finally stop for the holidays, you experience something called the let down effect. So this is when our cortisol levels will start to fall quite dramatically. Now, let's talk a bit about finances. We tend to suffer from cognitive load during the holidays. So we're kind of navigating family dynamics and social calendars, and it becomes this enormous festive map in our brain. When your brain is exhausted from so many things happening during the holidays, this leads to a willpower crash, and we move into this relational mode where the brain stops looking at price tags and starts looking at symbols of love. How can I prove and show that I love this person? Start looking at social signaling, because in a way you want to prove that you're a good daughter or son, you're a good partner. So you want to spend money, maybe more than what's necessary, on things that people might not even want. So the neuroscience tip for this is that high glucose levels help the prefrontal cortex, the CEO part of the brain, maintain willpower. So it's a tip to never go Christmas shopping on an empty stomach, and try to make your, financial decisions and getting your gifts and stuff in the morning before you start feeling decision fatigue later on in the day. And it can also happen where, when you visit your family home, you might turn back into the teenager that you were. So this is called psychological regression. And the idea is that when you're in the exact same physical environment that you grew up in, it triggers context dependent memories. And it's like your brain has saved all of your old, behavioral scripts, and you will start unconsciously bringing the old scripts back up. So it is something to be more mindful of, and more aware of, that this tendency to fall back into your old patterns becomes really strong when you're in an old physical environment. And to be honest, you might have outgrown that version of yourself. So to combat this psychological regression, psychologists suggest doing something called mindful differentiation, essentially reminding your brain that, okay, I have a life outside of the family home. I have autonomy. This is my life. I'm not going to go back into my old ways. And then taking a walk outside to break the neural loop of your childhood home, your childhood bedroom, to give yourself a breather, essentially. Christmas period is a period of massive dopamine spikes. You have so many lights, you have so much sugar. When January hits, you experience a dopamine crash, which is, the post Christmas slump. So, the solution to this, dopamine fasting or actively seeking out, more sustainable activities that are more led on serotonin, like reading and taking a quiet walk and letting yourself reset before you head into the new year. So, yeah, Merry Christmas, everyone. Happy holidays. And as you head into this festive time, do remember that your brain is essentially wired for connection and not perfection. So as you go into the Christmas spirit, it's nice to lean into the Danish tradition of hygge. Hygge is a Danish concept for coziness and contentment and well-being, and basically just focusing on the really simple pleasures of creating a really warm atmosphere with good people or by yourself with a lot of, candles, fuzzy warm lighting, comfort food, and meaningful connections. So it's essentially a way to slow down, appreciate your life and the phase that you're in at the minute, and enjoy the festive time. Yeah, take care of yourselves. I hope you guys have a wonderful Christmas, and I'll see you in the next one as we're heading into the new year. So Merry Christmas. Bye bye.